days when the heart is undefined. Another way when the walls are closing. When I look at the space between where we used to be and this moment, I know I'll never be. There's another in the fire, standing next to me. Was another in the walls, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? Was across the best of another died for me. There's another in the fire. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning? Either way, I will bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There's another in the fire, standing next to me. There's another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, the power set me free. There is a grave that holds nobody, now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, darkness, as the darkness bows to end, and I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between where it's thin, and I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us, nothing stands between us. There's no other name but the name that saves us. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may, it stays between all the things we've seen and this reckoning. I know I will never be. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me? I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me? I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Faithful you are, faithful forever you'll be. Faithful you are, and all your promises are yes and amen. promises are yes and amen. And all your promises are yes and amen. And all your promises are yes and amen.
Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is He. Sing a new song to Him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is He. Sing a new song to Him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Clothed in rainbows of living color, flashes of lightning, roars of thunder, blessing and honor, strength and glory and power be to you, the only wise King. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Filled with wonder, awestruck wonder, at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, breath and living water, such a marvelous mystery. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. I will adore you. I will adore
Lord, tonight I just pray that no matter how we're feeling during this time, the stuff that we're going through, Lord God, I just pray that we would remember that you're bigger than all of that. I pray that we would remember that you came down, you died on the cross for our sins so that we could have wholeness and life beyond the things that we're going to face in this world, Lord God. I just pray moving forward that we would reflect on that
When you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
That was some awesome worship, Cameron. I am so glad that you and Carly could lead us in worship today. I want to take a moment as we get ready to dive into our text for today to let you guys know a little bit about what's happening in our ministry. We've got a lot of exciting stuff happening. We want you guys to be a part of it. So obviously tonight, but then even moving forward, Wednesday nights at 6:30 is going to be our service time. And so we want you guys to be here for that. We're going to really invest in that, add small groups to that, make that a really high quality product. So we want you guys to join us every week, Wednesday nights at 6:30, so things are as much like normal as possible. But then we want to let you know that we're going to on YouTube be throwing this that you're seeing right now, but then also be throwing up some really great videos. So I'm actually working on those today. And so I want you guys to go over and watch those. You can head over, find us on YouTube, dad joke face-offs, devotional thoughts, a lot of really good stuff for you guys because we care about you and want you to be as well resourced as possible. So with that said, we are going to be today in week 2 of our series, totally unplanned again, what to do when you don't know what to do. And so I want to lean into a couple of things today. So if you have a Bible, we're going to look a few different places, but you can actually open or flip or click or however you get there to Genesis chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37. There's a lot of really helpful things in this text, but the bottom line of our time together that it just speaks truth into my life right now, and I think probably to yours as well, is this. When there's nothing that you can do, nothing at all, God is with you. When there's nothing you can do, God is with you. There's moments in our lives, whether it's high, intense, crazy moments, or it's low moments, maybe like for some of you right now where you can't go and do anything, you can't see all of your friends, and you're just kind of stuck where you are, that you get down and you think, there's nothing I can do. Or maybe it comes in a little different avenue where you feel in some situations hopeless, that there is nothing that you have control over. Maybe for some of you, it's as your parents have approached or maybe are in the midst of approaching a divorce that is just a hard thing that you have to wrestle with. And so maybe that's one thing that you would have to deal with where you feel like, I have no control in this situation. Some of you feel like this in maybe lighter areas of life, like your dating life, right? Like some of you are like, no way, man, I have zero control. Like the ladies love me, or I don't know why can't I find someone to love me? But the truth is, no matter whether it's your dating life or maybe really intense life moments, highs, lows, anywhere in between, when there's nothing that you can do, or you feel like there's nothing at all that you can do, God is with you. Genesis chapter 37 tells us this. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Now, this is a situation, I just have to be really honest with you. This guy we're talking about today is this little guy in the Bible his name was Joseph. And Joseph's here in this moment in Genesis 37. They saw him, they being his brothers, saw him in the distance, and before he reached him, they plotted to kill him. Just so you're aware, Joseph had zero control about his brothers deciding to kill him. He was just telling people exactly what God told him, following God's will for his life, doing his thing, not intentionally causing other people harm or frustration. But when they saw him in the distance, before he reached them, so before he even gets there, they plotted to kill him. They're like, you know what? We're going to kill him, right? Like, that's a natural reaction to this. It's not. That's not okay. Some of you are around your siblings a lot more right now. Not okay to murder them, okay? But in this situation, they plotted to kill him. They had set out, or as in a criminal term, maybe we would say premeditated. They premeditated to kill him. And for us, this is a moment where we know Joseph is in the same shoes as a lot of us. He had no control in this situation about what would happen or how people would react. And it continues in verse 19. Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of those cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. And this isn't just one of those moments where they were frustrated and quickly acted on something. There's a level of anger, of malice, of real hatred to say, not only are we going to kill him, like we're just going to have this reaction, we're going to kill him, throw him into one of the cisterns, and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. We already got a cover-up story for this, and then we'll see what comes of his dreams. Like that little knife in the back, that little stick it to him, we'll see what comes of his dreams now. Because the dreams are really, the dreams that God had given Joseph to give to his brothers are the thing that they were most frustrated about. They say, you know what, we'll see what comes of his dreams now. Let's continue reading, though, because there's a lot of good stuff here. And it gets into verse 21, and here's what it says. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said to rescue him from them and to take him back to his father. You know, the really interesting thing I think about this text is Reuben's a guy that while Joseph had no control, he couldn't do anything in this situation, God was with Joseph, and he used specifically Reuben in this situation to be with Joseph. God could have done anything he wanted to. Lightning bolt, struck someone down, or rain, or whatever. He could have used anything to manipulate the situation, but he chooses in this situation specifically to use Reuben to halt the actual murder attempt on Joseph's life, because God had bigger plans. It wasn't just about the here and now. It was about a big picture thing. It was about the dreams that God gave Joseph earlier. So he has this big picture plan that he gives to Joseph. And so as we see this, Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him. He actually successfully rescues him, in that he doesn't allow, Reuben doesn't allow his brothers to kill Joseph. But here's where it gets better. Verse 32, they took the ornate robe that had been given specifically to Joseph from their father, and they took it to their father and said, we found this, examine it to see whether it is your son's robe. They knew it was the robe. They knew it, and they were bringing it to him, and they knew the father would know that as proof that the brother was killed. So they didn't actually have to do the killing. This sort of weird, twisted set of morals or morality here of like, maybe this will make us better in the long run, and maybe Reuben influenced them right in that, but they took it back to the father. We'll let him look at it and let him form his own opinions. We won't say that he's dead or not dead. We'll just give it to our father, and we'll see what he thinks of it. But it doesn't stop there. There's five words, that happen later in Genesis. It's actually in Genesis chapter 39, verse 2, and here's what it says. Just in those first 5 words, the Lord was with Joseph. If you know anything about Joseph, you know this to be true, that not only does Joseph go through this situation where he gets an attempt on his life, attempted murder towards Joseph, the conversation is had, the plan is made. They actually do abuse him in a lot of ways, but what happens is they actually use this opportunity to try to hurt him. However, what happens is God accomplishes his purpose. The truth of Joseph's life, that's true of your life and of mine, is this. While we have wild circumstances, wild situations, we have situations that are great and awesome, we have situations that in a lot of ways just suck. Anywhere in between, especially when we feel like there's nothing that we can do, God is with us. God is working in the midst of every single situation. I've always heard it put that it's a big tapestry, right? Or a big rug in a lot of ways. That God has ornately put together every single detail of your life and of mine, of all of the world. And that he is not just sitting back hanging out like, I don't know, I guess what should I do next? But he's actually sitting back weaving together this absolutely ornate, detailed, specific tapestry, knowing exactly what will happen in your life. You might look at me and say, Tyler, there's no way. There's no way God meant for all of this to happen in my life. And I would actually push back against that and say, yes, I firmly believe God meant for everything in your life to happen. You say, why would God let these things happen? Why would evil and all of these situations exist in my life? Why would all of these people die of COVID-19? Well, maybe God has a bigger plan. And I know that's hard to say for some of you, and some of you may be touched by this personally. You may have lost friends or family in these situations and in these tragedies, but maybe you would say this, like, why would God let something like this happen? And what I would say is that ornate tapestry that God is working together on actually is a much bigger picture than what we can see right now. These last 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 weeks, really, we see all of these situations developing. God is working on a tapestry that's much bigger than that. And Genesis chapter 37 really points us to that. If Joseph got so focused on the here and now that he missed the big picture of what God was doing in his life, if he got focused on what he couldn't do and just left it at that, he wouldn't have understood that God was with him, that God was at work in his midst. My hope and prayer for you is this. No matter where you watch this from, no matter how you come to what we're dealing with today, that you would understand this truth. The Lord was with Joseph, but God is with you. You know, there's this name throughout the Bible that's given to God. It's sometimes mentioned around Christmas. It's called Emmanuel. And some of you are like, wow, that's a really old word and I've never heard that before. Emmanuel. And it means God with us. You see, one of the things that absolutely makes our faith stand out amongst others is this, is not only do we have a God that's in control of everything, a capital G God, not a lowercase g God that's been sort of fabricated that isn't a real God, but we have this capital G God, the real God, the creator of heaven and earth, the thing that holds and sustains all of creation together and keeps it functioning. This God would actually desire a relationship with you. Not only did he create you as an object to worship him, but he actually cares about and loves you. He cares what happens to you. He cares how you're feeling today. He cares about the fears and frustrations that you have. God cares. The Lord was with Joseph, but God, that Lord, that God, Emmanuel, is God with us. He is with you, especially when you don't know what to do. You know, in a lot of moments in my life, I've had really awe or fear or things that have just paralyzed me. I don't know what to do. I'll remember this moment for forever, really. In May of 2013, I was actually in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I was in some weird intro to life skills. Basically, it was a ripoff of a college class that they made everyone take that I was trying to knock out in a J term. And so in this class and just trying to get a couple credits knocked out. And so it was a 1 week thing, an intensive class. And I believe it was a Thursday, actually. So we're in the middle of class and, one of those storms comes in Oklahoma. And you could see from the library where our classroom was, you could see the storm rolling in. You're like, this is wild. I don't understand what's happening. And maybe like, I don't know, a bunch of Oklahoma people are like, dude, let's go outside and watch this. But yeah, it's great. I'm going to watch from inside, like behind the glass. But in the middle of class, really distracting, storm rolls in. We had heard reports maybe that in other areas it was going to be worse. Didn't really know all of the situations. At the time, I had been working in Moore, Oklahoma, which was about 25 to 30 minutes away. Got a great internship there, was serving in ministry just like this, hanging out with middle school and high school students and just seeing what God had for my life and growing, developing in that role. So in the middle of class, we start to see like information comes across, right? Like social media isn't what it was then things are different, right? And so in this moment, we started to see other reports and we could kind of check web pages and stuff. And we started to see that maybe there was some really bad destruction. Well, what I eventually came to find is that there were moments where the city of Moore, where I had served, places that I had been, restaurants that I had eaten on, all of these different things, stores that I'd been, had actually been demolished, schools completely taken, homes absolutely destroyed. And actually one of the phone calls I got, oddly enough, was from someone at a children's home in the area that was very, very close and had actually been wrecked by the tornado. And just the sheer terror in those people's voices will stick with me for forever. And I remember having this moment where it was such an odd tension of not knowing what to do. There was no way for us to get into the heart of the city to begin to help people. We didn't have the ability to do so. Traffic was messed. I mean, there's just no way you could get in. And this moment of knowing, like, what do I do? I knew that people were hurting. I knew that people were trapped and there was danger, and I wanted to help, and just not knowing what to do, not being able to do anything. I couldn't do anything. I felt like I couldn't do anything, but I know that God was with me in that moment. I also know this truth: God was with everyone in that moment. That those feelings of anxiety and fear and worry, frustration, all of those things, maybe some of the feelings that you have right now, God was with me and was with us as people in every single situation that we go through. So my hope, my encouragement to you today is that this bottom line would not only be something that you hear or watch or interact with, but this would be a truth that would apply to your life. That when there's nothing you can do, when you think and feel that there's absolutely nothing you can do, you would know and rest on the fact that God is with us, that God cares about us. Man, I care about you guys. I'm praying for you. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you guys back here next week.